everyone.
All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone, and we're opening the board meeting of the IDA, March 25th, 4:15. Let's start off with a roll call. Honorable Dennis Keeney. Here. Marlene. Excused. Mr. Murphy.
Present.
Anton Gislin.
Present.
Paul.
Present.
And the Honorable Wanda Willingham. Excused. Okay, so I believe we have a quorum. I think the first item for review here is acceptance of the minutes of January 4th. Any questions? And if so, can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next item here would be audit committee report. Bill?
Yes, we just a few minutes ago adjourned the March 25th audit committee meeting. We met with the auditor who presented their reports, unqualified opinion on the financial statements, clean bill out on internal controls as far as the responsibilities of the auditor are concerned. So a good deal of what the auditor does has to then be documented into the annual Paris filings, which are, I think here, they haven't been filed as yet. They need to be approved by this board before they would be filed. And the filing date is, I think, March 31st, so rapidly approaching. I kind of looked at the details of some of these Paris reports myself, and they seem to match up pretty much with what I saw on the audit side of things. So I think that what we're looking for here is probably another resolution to accept the maybe to accept the auditor to approve the Paris filings, and I'm looking for some help with that from Shannon Wagner as well.
Absolutely. So the resolution here acknowledges that the audit committee recommended to you that you approve the Paris report. Again, you just received a presentation on your 2025 audited financials. The audit committee recommended to you that you approve the audit committee charter for another year, that you approve the independence of the auditor for the next year, authorize non-audit services, approve the filing of the Paris report, and just generally approve your activities from the past year. So this resolution just walks through all of those steps and authorizes you to file that Paris report.
Very good. We get a motion then to approve the resolution.
Motion.
And we have a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Bill. Good job. CFO report, Amy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll quickly go over the February financials. January financials that are in your packets. Starting on page 44 is the statement of financial position. We have roughly $4.5 million in cash and treasury bills. Of that, of $1.5 million of the treasury bills came due in March. So we did another 4-month, I believe, renewal at roughly 3.6% for those. We have some, prepaid expenses, which include insurance and dues, and, not much more to mention on the statement of financial position. Net loss for the first month of the year is $16,000. I'll move on to the budget versus actuals. So year-to-date January, we had roughly $13,000 in total revenue. Of that, $8,000 of it was fees. $7,500 of those fees were the annual CHP fee that we receive, and $5,000 in interest and earnings. As you can see, the budget is a little bit higher. We spread that budget out over the year, and as projects come to the IDA and close, we will start to receive fees. Moving down to the expenses, $29,000 versus a budgeted amount of $30,000, so the expenses are right in line for the first month of the year. And total net loss was $16,000 versus a budgeted gain of $1,200. So.
See what we can do here to some revenues here, right? Okay. Any questions for Amy? We get a motion then to approve the financials.
Motion.
Is it second? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Great, thank you. CEO report, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll kind of keep this short. Major development is the Altech Steel site. You are, again, as we mentioned at the last meeting, the proud owner. We continue to go ahead with the generic environmental impact statement. Again, this is probably the single best industrial site we have in the county. It does have its warts in that is a former Superfund site. We've entered into a liability agreement with the Department of Environmental Conservation to cap any liabilities that we might have as the property owner going forward or going backwards. All those liabilities we're exempted from. And we're looking at probably about another 18 months to get through the generic environmental impact statement and the secret process, where at the end of which we will hopefully have a shovel-ready site. We've been using Sandy Mathis as our consultant on this. Sandy, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, it's proceeding through the grind,
Right,
and we'll get to the end.
And it is a grinding process, but it's worth it. I mean,
Yes.
we do have, we're not ready to start marketing it, although notwithstanding, we've had some interest from some people in the semiconductor supply chain industry. It just kind of validates this process we're going through. This is the same process that the Vista Technology Campus went through where we landed Plug Power, and the Carver companies went through for the Port of Clemens process. It's once you go through it, as Sandy says, it is a little bit of a slog, but once you go through it, you're really just pulling a permit and getting somebody in the background very quickly, which is where we have to be in the county if we're going to be successful in attracting these jobs. So that's all moving along pretty well. Just on some related projects, the central warehouse is moving along. We're all but finished with the asbestos remediation. We've had some slowdowns because of the weather. The way that the asbestos gets mitigated when it's being taken out is with a water mist, and the continued cold weather turned their misting machine into a snow gun and made it ineffective in keeping the asbestos dust, so they had some interruptions there. But they're back in action and moving along, and we're hoping that they can make that time up in their schedule. We've got a first quarter of 2027 to have the building completely mitigated and demolished. And again, as I may have mentioned in the past, this is not a very dramatic demolition. It's not a wrecking ball or an implosion. It's a machine that they send up there and they munch the building down from top to bottom. They send these automated machines up and they just munch away. And this is the term that this isn't my term. And but the contractor has, and I asked him, this has anything to do with the presence of the cannabis store across the street, and they swore that did not. Munchies, right? But we're litigation is behind us. We've got good reputation going with the Department of Labor, who manages the asbestos remediation. We have an independent air quality manager there, and we've held 2 public hearings so far for the businesses and the residents of the neighborhood. I have to tell you, there's not a single person who's spoken in opposition to the demolition at all. Questions are more about road closures and any interruptions in area businesses that might happen because of the demolition. So we're at the final stages of negotiating our agreement with Amtrak, which we think will probably be done the end of this week, beginning of next. But the actual demolition can't start until we have that agreement in place with Amtrak. But our attorneys are confident that we will get that done, since we conceded to every demand Amtrak made, not the least of which depositing $900,000 in an escrow account for Amtrak to draw down on to offset their expenses. So that's going ahead. Another project that we have out there that some of you, I know Dennis knows, and Legislator Willingham, is the so-called McDonald's building on the corner of South Pearl and Madison Avenue. You may have heard that the governor included this in her plan for downtown Albany to make this an intercity bus station. This would replace the somewhat dilapidated and derelict bus station that exists further down Madison Avenue, basically on the same side, a block or two away, which is plagued with vagrants and drugs and just all sorts of decay. Our facility will have a permanent law enforcement installation in there. There will be a sheriff's department, a sheriff's location there. I don't know, I'd call it a substation, but there will be a permanent installation of the Albany County Sheriff's. There'll be a traveler's lounge, driver's lounge, ticket kiosks, bathrooms, of course, and a retail establishment of a to-be-determined nature that would be accessible from the traveling public coming from inside the terminal, as well as from the street side along Pearl Street for local residents to patronize the facility. The thinking is that this would be something along the lines of a Hudson News and convenience store type thing that you see in airports and the Redstone train station. The facility will be managed by CDTA through a master lease with the Alliance, and then in turn lease it out to the various bus carriers, Greyhound, Adirondack, Peter Pan, and the like. So that will be getting underway. We'll be holding public hearings to get community input on that project as well. But things are going along pretty well there. So that's pretty much concludes my reports, Mr. Chairman. There is one item that I would like to request we go into executive session on, and that concludes my remarks.
Very good, very good. Okay, other business, we have the Regeneron update. Kevin?
Good morning, good afternoon, Chair, good afternoon, Board. Jim Leggett from Regeneron reached out to us last week. What they're looking for is an extension of the sales tax exemption certificate. Some of the project got a little delayed. They're not asking for any type of increase. All they're requesting is that we change the date on the certificate from December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2029, until when the project is done. No other changes to any of the documentation that was closed March 1st, 2014 or 2024. Again, just extending those benefits out another 3 years so that they can finish the project. And there is a motion in the packet. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer it. There's a letter from Mr. Leggett in the packet. Shannon and Nadine from House and Rusk prepared the documentation. It's really just a matter of paperwork, and speaking with Chris and Nadine, this is a very common thing. This isn't the first time it happened, and it won't be the last time we have a request like this.
3 years, not a common extension of, it seems to be a little elongated, I guess, just for my.
It's really just to match the build out of the facility. You may recall, I had forgotten about it. Shannon and Chris reminded me that we did do extension for Plug Power when they were building their facility out. I think it might have even been 2 extensions, Shannon, do you recall?
We did an interim for them, and then they closed, and then they did an extension. So there were a handful of extensions for them.
Yeah, so it's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. Okay, just, for my sniff test, it just seems a little long to extend, any agreement, just because. But, that being said, if we think it's customary and supportive management and all, open it up to any questions. Bill?
Yeah, I tend to think, as you do, that the period of the extension is a little longer than what you normally would see. Normally, what I've been involved with are annual extensions, and how did things change so quickly to go from being done at the end of 2025 to now, it's 4 years later. So this.
Is the process like 3 years, maybe because you didn't want to come to the board annually for an extension, or is it, is it something that specifically was requested for 3 years?
It was in the letter attached from Mr. Leggett. And just so everybody is aware, even though the timeline is 3 years, we are not offering them anything above the $850,000 of sales tax exemption. That was already approved. So they just want a longer runway to use up that exemption, but we're not increasing the exemption. That would have been a different conversation. But this is just extending the timeline.
Is there like, are they actively doing?
Well, I was just gonna talk about that. You know, you've probably all heard that Regeneron acquired the Quad Graphics building up in Saratoga, enormous building, 1 million square feet under one roof. We had been, and we're continuing to try to engage them in doing some further build out in the Manans area. There is some adjoining property that could sustain a build out, but I think that this acquisition up in Saratoga has, you know, maybe just had them rethinking some of their plans, and that may be why the slowdown on this here might have been just a bit of a distraction. Because it is an enormous facility they put up there.
Do you think this is gonna happen?
Oh, yeah, no. The reason he called is because BBL, Jonathan are asking for it so that they can order materials for the next phase of the work they're doing. So they are teed up.
Did any of the modifications change from the initial application? Still the same plan for?
Same employment numbers, any changes to that, or the timing of any of the employment? Yeah, I don't really recall what those numbers were.
Yeah, no, they've met their job numbers for the 25 year. So they're on target there, and, you know, we'd love to see them have more of a presence in the county, so we're trying to be as accommodating as we can. You know, it's a great company, you know, New York headquartered company, growing leaps and bounds.
I think it's an Irish company, isn't it?
They have, you know what they did, Bill? They moved into the old Dell computer manufacturing plant in Limerick, Ireland. And the guy actually who runs the local operation, Dan Van Plume, was the guy who cited that facility over in Limerick. Yeah.
So Chair, you would just need to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, well, again, a little uncustomary, but it's supported with no other changes, so we get a motion to approve of the Regeneron extension. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thanks, Kevin, appreciate it. Public comments, open discussion, anyone on the phone? Okay, executive session, Kevin, you requested.
Yes,
that we
Mr. Chairman, I
do-
would like the board to consider going into executive session. There's some internal policy matters that I'd like to discuss with the board privately. And of course, we would take no action in executive session, but
Okay, can we get a motion then to move into executive session?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consider us now in executive session. If you could take us offline.
excuse us.